So today we're putting together a tattoo machine. All your traditional coiled tattoo machines have the same basic components. Whether they're China mass manufactured, on Amazon, or the same generic tattoo machines that you can buy for really cheap, they all have the same basic components. You have your frame, your coils, your springs, your armature bar, your front binding post, and your rear binding post. Not to forget the O-ring. To put it together is very simple, basic. Now to put it together right, some people will forget or overlook some things. But once you get the hang of it, it's very simple. We're gonna start off with the coils. I'll put the screw through there with the washers. The purpose of the washers, if you didn't know already, they're to raise and lower the coils so they can make good contact with the armature bar. So basically, you want your front coil to hit flush with the armature bar at a 90-degree angle. Now the rear one should be a tiny bit lower, just a tiny bit lower than the front. And that's what the washers are for. You can raise it or lower it and it will affect the machine performance. I'm not going to tighten the screws all the way up yet, just in case I need to do minor adjustments later on. Okay, next we'll put together the armature bar with the springs. Let's go ahead and do that. You got your front spring and your rear spring. For the most part, mostly all rear springs have a curvature, a small curvature. You want that going up, not facing down, otherwise it's not going to make good contact. And remember, the rear one always goes under. Rear one goes under. And the front spring goes on top of the rear spring. On top of the rear spring, under the washer. There you are. Now this has to be aligned pretty well. You want all the parts to be parallel. Maybe some parts might be wider on one side than the other, but that's okay, as long as they're running parallel to each other. Everything, the armature bar, the rear spring, and the front spring. The front spring kind of aiming at this part right here of the armature bar where the needle goes, and just eyeball it, give or take. There are tools for this, but eyeballing it works just fine. Once you think you got it, just tighten it up. Not too much. Well, actually, yeah, this one, tighten it up. You want it to stay perfectly straight without being moved around. This one will go ahead and tighten pretty well. We just make sure that it's nice and straight. Okay. Let's not forget the O-ring. Now the O-ring, I've seen it been put on in many different ways. This machine in particular had it back here. I like to keep it how I found the machines, or how I acquired them. Some people put the O-ring going over and around the screw here. There's some O-rings that are thicker, some are thinner. Essentially, they just give or take tension from the front spring. So, tuner's performance, however you want your machine to run, you can use different O-rings as well. That affects the performance. Let's continue here. We got our rear binding post. Got your little rubber pieces here to keep the 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 screw from touching the frame to keep it insulated. Very important. Sometimes your machine is not running because that's touching, or there's like something faulty there. It's not really the machine, it's just a contact. And we are. Like I said, not too tight, somewhat tight, not too tight. Let's continue with, let's do the armature bar. The armature bar assembly. Now, very important here. The armature bar, this whole assembly, the armature bar assembly, talking about the springs, the armature bar, all of this right here, has to be nice and straight going across here. This, and this, the hole where the vise is, it has to be all aligned, pretty well aligned. And also you want to keep the armature bar in between these two, on both sides. To be as straight as you can, as straight as you can. Now a trick to it is, you put your one of these tubes, from an old machine, or from an old tube. Just throw that on there, and you can guesstimate pretty well how straight your armature bar is. Alright, as it goes down, you know how straight your needle is going to be. You could check on there. And once you have it, then you go ahead and tighten it up. As you inspect and adjust. But everything's right there. I'm pretty sure you can see it. Pretty straight. So there, now we know that all of this is pretty well aligned. Next, we'll put on the front contact screw with the binding post. There we are. Put that through there. Always remember, the little rubber pieces, the plastic pieces going first. It's what keeps the screw insulated, touching the walls, the frame. Oh, almost forgot. So don't forget this part right here. This is from the coils. Now the contact screw, personally, I always put them at a 90, so it hits the spring, the front spring, at a 90-degree angle, nice and flat. If you need to, you can also take the screw off and file it down till it's nice and flat, so it touches nice and flat with the spring, so it doesn't make a hole on there or it's not sparking. It's a number, no, and it benefits the machine. It's nice and flat. Okay. And now we'll just go back and inspect all the screws. Make sure they're nice and tight. Make sure that it's nice and flush there too. If you need to put more spacers on there or washer to make sure it's nice and straight and even, you can. On here. And then same thing with the coils. Pull your armature bar down. It should make perfect contact with the front coil. The core of the coil and the armature bar should be at a 90-degree. And there should be a tiny gap, a minute gap on the rear one. You can put it up to the light and you'll be able to tell. But from the looks of it, everything is good. Let me do one more check on all the screws. Always do that. And if you got everything pretty well aligned, your armature bar, your springs, all the spacings right, you should be able to do lines without no ink spitting everywhere and messes like that. It should be a nice crispy line. Just double checking here for all my screws. Alright, and now I'm gonna test it as if I were to be running the machine with an actual needle. This is just, you know, like a dummy needle. Put it on here. You know, you don't want to tune it without the tube and the needle in there, and then you throw the tube and the needle and then it's not tuned as you left it. So go ahead and do this with the needle and the tube. This all has never been used. Put on our rubber bands on there, you know, simulating the actual setup. There we are. Let's connect it. You could hear it, you could even feel it. I usually start from the bottom and start going up on the voltage till I hear it running pretty well. Like you hear it, by hear and touch. By hear and touch, you should be able to tell if your machine is running good. One of the tricks is you're supposed to see an 8. The metal, this metal piece right here should make an 8. Same space between them, you know, two of them. The spring, another trick that I've seen a lot on videos actually, is that you're supposed to see 3 springs here. Honestly, I just go by feel and sound. It sounds good, it feels good, and don't forget that once you got your ink on there and everything, you know, it's gonna lubricate it and it's gonna run a tiny bit faster, a tiny bit better, more efficient. Right there, I'm running at about 7 volts, 7.5 volts, so that's pretty good. Feels like you could push in like a 7 round, maybe even a 9 round. So there you go.